Hey guys, welcome back to another video on the channel. In this video, I'm going to be breaking down this amazing exchange that went viral almost a week ago. It was, I believe, last Tuesday is when this hearing happened. I apologize, I'm a little bit late to it. I was busy, but I really wanted to get to this exchange because I thought it was extremely extraordinary, and I'm going to be using that word to describe this exchange throughout the video because that's how Senator Hawley described it at the end of this exchange, and I thought this exchange was funny at some moments, but it also provided a lot of good talking points to go through as I'm breaking down this video. Now, a lot of people, when they watch this video, they just threw out the entire conversation. For me, because I don't have a script in any of these videos, just so you know, I'm going to be doing it in pieces, but I'll probably put a link in the description to the video if you want to just see the full uncut version without any of me just stopping every, 10 seconds or so. But I'm going to be breaking down into pieces and stuff like that. First, though, subscribe to the channel if you have not, and stay tuned for the future content. I'm trying to build this channel, as you know. And if you're interested in the stuff that I do on my first channel, that being gaming, rankings, reviews, and much more, go subscribe to that one as well. Join the Discord, link is in the About section. Other than that, talking about this video, or this exchange, I should say. So last Tuesday, there was a senator hearing, and it involved a senator that I'm not super familiar with, but I'm aware that he is in the Senate. But this video definitely has made me like him a lot more. I really liked his I guess just, how do you want to say it? His strategy going into this. So it was Senator Hawley, and he was asking a professor that came to the senator hearing a simple question, which was, she used the word people with a capacity of pregnancy to describe, for pregnant people. Now, most people, people who have a brain would just say pregnant women, but she said people with a capacity of pregnancy. So he asked, well, do you mean women by that? So he started off with a very simple question, and then it started to go on, and it just got really good. So I'm going to be breaking it down, stopping whenever I have a good point to make. So let's get started.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thanks to all of the witnesses for being here. Before I want to visit with you, Ms. Meskey, but before I do, I just want to clear one thing up. Professor Bridges, you said several times, you've used a phrase, I want to make sure I understand what you mean by it. You've referred to people with a capacity for pregnancy. Would that be women?
Many women, cis women, have the capacity for pregnancy. Many cis women do not have the capacity for pregnancy. There are also trans men who are capable of pregnancy, as well as non-binary people who are capable of pregnancy.
So this isn't really a women's rights issue.
Okay, so I'm going to stop there. And I just loved the way that he asked the question at the beginning. I just want to start with that first. I mean, the way he just asked the question, would that be women? Like, he's just like, why can't you just say women? He's like, do you mean women? And she's like, no. Non-binary people can get pregnant. Trans men can be pregnant, which are just actual biological women, so they're not actually men. And she just starts saying all these different people that can be capable of being pregnant. And this is something that just always does not, it completely exposes, why this view about the abortion rights issue just does not make any sense. I mean, abortion just fails on so many different levels. I mean, the left is kind of in this weird hybrid where they are shouting, this is for women, this is for women's rights, this is keeping people off, women's bodies and all that kind of stuff. But then they want to go off and say that other people besides women, well, people that they think are not women, they're men, can also be capable of being pregnant. And it just makes no sense. They're kind of in this, like, hybrid of, well, it's a women's right issue, but it's also not, and it just does not make any sense. And then, obviously, she keeps using the made-up term about cisgender, which is just people who are, affirmed with their gender and actually believe that they are what they are. So I always really hated that, made-up term that's been, promulgated within the past few years. So continuing, and then he says, so this isn't really a women's rights issue, which obviously that's a great question to ask, because obviously no, it is, but it's not, and they can't decide where they're falling on this. They're kind of stuck between third wave feminism and second wave feminism, where they're still deciding, well, should this be a women's rights issue, or should we just go all out with all these, modern day beliefs? So yeah, continuing.
Recognize that this impacts women while also recognizing that it impacts other groups. Those things are not mutually exclusive, Senator Hawley.
Oh, so your view is that the core of this right then is about what?
So I want to recognize that your line of questioning is transphobic, and it opens up trans people to violence by not recognizing that.
Wow, you're saying that I'm opening up people to violence by asking whether or not women are the folks who can have pregnancies?
So I want to note that 1 out of 5 transgender persons have attempted suicide.
Okay, so I want to stop there because that was honestly a lot, and I don't know, I didn't even know if I'm going to remember it, but just in that little piece, that was honestly a whole lot. So she immediately knows that she cannot answer the question directly, and the question was, so this is not a women's rights issue. And then she goes off, and instead of answering the question directly, because obviously, no, this isn't a women's right issue. They're in this hybrid. I mean, it is, but it isn't. It's so confusing because they're trying to stick with it, but also they can't because they have to also simultaneously push this modern perspective and narrative that they want to push. So they're kind of stuck in this hybrid, deciding, well, should it be a women's right issue or should this just be going all out, like I said before? So instead of answering the question directly, she immediately goes to, he's being transphobic because of his line of questioning, which is obviously not true. And this idea that questioning things that have to do with transgenderism is transphobic is just absolutely false. I mean, disagreeing with the transgender ideology is not denying that those people exist. There's obviously people out there who have that mental disorder, and they should be treated and they should be helped. But that does not mean that we're denying that they exist. It is simply disagreeing with the ideology. So, yeah, obviously she goes off, says that he's transphobic, and then she throws out that statistic that many mainstream media sources have been trying to push out there within the past few months. And most of them have got it from the Trevor Project. I mean, if not all have gotten from the Trevor Project. And the Trevor Project really hasn't become very, very well known until recently, I would say, by most of everybody. I mean, at first, it was mostly just the left, but then the right started to learn about it when they started to push out these statistics that kind of push this false narrative. I've actually known about the Trevor Project for many, many years, or for, well, not many, many years, but for a couple of years now, actually, because I heard about it early on. And her statistic was that 1 out of 5 trans people commit suicide. But there was a statistic that came out shortly after people started using this that shows that they commit suicide after they've gotten the surgery, not before, after. So even after they should be doing well and they should be comfortable in their new body or whatever, they are still committing suicide because of regret of the surgery and all that kind of stuff. So this is this statistic has been used many, many times, but it has been debunked by a future statistic that came out shortly after it. So yeah, that's all I have to say about that. Continuing.
So I think it's important
because of my line of questioning. So we can't talk about it.
Because denying that trans people exist and pretending not to know that they exist.
I'm denying that trans people exist by asking you if you're talking about women having pregnancies.
Do you believe that men can get pregnant?
No, I don't think women can get pregnant.
So you are denying that trans people exist?
And that leads to violence? Is this how you run your classroom? Are students allowed to question you?
Absolutely.
Or are they also treated like this, where
No,
they're told that they're opening up people to violence?
We have a good time in my class. You should join.
I bet.
You might learn a lot.
Wow, I would learn a lot. I've learned a lot just in this exchange.
Absolutely.
Extraordinary.
Yep.
He's learned a lot. Extraordinary, and that is just the final and best part of this exchange is just his final words. Oh, I learned a lot in this exchange, and that was absolutely extraordinary. I love Senator Hawley in this. He kept his cool throughout it, and I think this is honestly sort of a good strategy that conservatives are going with. And it's partially working, but it's also partially not working, and I think we need to get kind of better at it. But there's this kind of new strategy amongst conservatives of, instead of putting the left into, in these kind of debates, putting the left into a situation where it's kind of like a gotcha moment, because gotcha moments have kind of become too much of a common strategy that they've kind of been easily defeated or avoided and stuff like that. So the new strategy is simply asking questions that are not answerable, because if they answer them, that would be shutting down their entire argument and everything like that. And it makes it look so much cooler when you defeat your opponent this way, because all you did was ask a question. That's it. You asked a very, very simple question, and not only is this a great strategy, it also just exposes how fragile the ideology is. You just ask one simple question, and it just all crumbles down into a bunch of pieces. And the final words from Senator Hawley was just extremely, extremely great. Just extraordinary. I love that part. So going into full screen now, I remembered what I was going to say. So backtracking to what I said earlier, like I said, the strategy partially works, but I think it also partially does not. And I think a way to improve upon this strategy, instead of just asking them the question, is not allowing them to divert from the question and not answer it directly. You have to push them into a corner where they either have to answer the question or they just have to say, I'm sorry, I can't answer this question. This happened a lot. My biggest example is Jen Psaki. This happened a lot with her in her questioning from different people. Many times she just had to say, I'm sorry, I'll have to point you to this person, or I'll have to point you to this person, or I'll circle back. And obviously she never circled back. She never answered the question again. She never came back to it. So I think we could improve upon this strategy by doing that and just simply not allowing them to divert from it. They either have to answer directly, which will make them look stupid, or they have to say, I'm sorry, I can't answer that question, which will still make them look stupid. And I think a big example of somebody who perfected this strategy was Ted Cruz. Now, I'm not going to try to dig down the clip because it would take me probably a long time, but I remember this clip from Ted Cruz. Oh my God, Ted Cruz. And I believe he was doing a hearing as well. And instead of just asking the question and kind of continuing the debate from there, if the person who he was asking the question diverted from the question, didn't answer it directly, he would then ask another question, and then he would keep doing this over and over again. If they didn't give him the answer that he wanted or the direct answer, he would ask them a different question every single time, and he would continue to bring them back even further until they were in this corner where they absolutely had nothing left to do. And I think that was a big that was a big example of somebody who perfected this strategy of asking simple questions and backing somebody into a corner to destroy their opponent. Overall, though, despite my critiques, I think Senator Hawley did a really, really great job keeping his cool, and he's made me like him even more, and I look forward to seeing him in future senator hearings where hopefully he destroys even more liberals with facts and logic. But other than that, I really wanted to get to that extraordinary exchange, talk about it, despite the fact that I was a little bit late to it. Other than that, though, stay tuned for the future content. Subscribe if you have not, because, of course, I'm trying to build this channel. And if you're interested in the stuff that I talked about in my first channel, go subscribe to that one as well. Join the Discord server. Link is in the About section. Other than that, like and subscribe, guys, and I will see you next time.